I know you guys want to jump ahead and see this thing finished, but I'm at a very important portion of the wing design, and I wanted you guys to see this before I build the wing, because once I do, it's going to be hard to show you. For one, I could have left this one piece, but I was looking carefully at some P51 pics, and if you look here, I just want to line that up perfect, you'll notice that the wing has a slight sweep here, but a steeper sweep at the back. That is one of the features of a P51 wing. In addition, it has these little tiny fellas that sit here and actually come up in between. They're part of the cowl, technically. They're like a little cowling that goes over the wing edge, and it connects over to the main fuselage. Okay, so that makes a little lip here that comes out and goes to the fuselage. So I want to have that. In addition, I want to have two types of angles going on here. One, the wing is slightly slicked back. That's done by putting it on the angle that I want and then cutting it straight here. Now, I did not do the put it on paper thing, which is actually really too bad right now, and I want to. And so I'm actually going to copy these down. Now, one of the things you want to do with these is crease down this edge as hard as you can. We actually want this to be a very slim design. So we are going to weigh the wing again because I've removed a lot, but I have added these. This is actually going to be used to glue the back of the wing together. These two pieces are going to be used to glue the front of the wing together on the outside, and this piece is going to go inside to help glue it together on the inside. Now that will add a little weight, but it'll be worth it in terms of the strength of it. So as you can see, we've lost a lot of weight off the wing. In fact, even with this stuff, it's gone from 9 to 7.4. Well, that's actually quite a nice difference, considering that the sheet that I started with, here, let me, it's actually really awkward to show you guys this part, but it weighs 9 grams. Okay, so given that weighs 9 grams, in fact, I did have one where I pretty much got the whole sheet on and it weighed 9 grams. So what I'm seeing here is that we've lost a couple of grams of weight almost. Once again, let's just check it. And look at that. It's barely 7.4. And before it was just barely 9 grams or just shy, like 8 point something. This is perfect. If we're seeing 7 grams from 9, we've lost 2 grams off the build weight of our target. Now, I haven't gone to the point of measuring all this stuff yet, but this is why when you make something like this, like when I trimmed off the back of the wing, I didn't keep it. I ended up not keeping those back pieces either, the VGs, because they're not a part of a Mustang. And because I've decided to make this a Mustang, the goal is to make it as scale as possible, given the fact that it won't even have a canopy because it's going to be on a little stick. So the real trick is getting the wing angles perfect. And I really feel right now like I have the wing angles perfect. If you really know a P51 and you're looking at these angles, bud, they're bang on. They look right on. So I'm pretty happy with that. I know that as a result, it's going to look pretty good when it's finished, proportion-wise. And the tail is easy. It's just a square tail. So I can definitely manage that. But we're going to put this wing together. Then we're going to put it on the body. And we're only going to use the really thin mill carbon fiber shaft. We're not going to use the thicker one, I've decided, and we're not going to use this piece, which means the weight of this just lost at least another 2 grams, 2.5 grams, which means we're sitting in total right around 5 grams lighter than the other glider, and it was at 26 and a half, and I said I wanted it 22 or so. We're looking right around that weight. In fact, if I don't use this guy with this, I might come in lighter than I want by a fair bit. So I'll have to monitor this. It's one of the reasons I do it this way. I build it up, I check it out, I weigh all the pieces individually, I make sure that they're balanced, they're proper, and that they look good. What I need to do now is patent this. So I'll fold each half of the wing out, trace it into a book, so that I have a representation of the wing, and I can keep that for later and put it in my file. Et voila. that has all my various wing shapes in it. I do a lot of designing here. This is a big part of the series, is for me to design these for you guys so you don't have to. Now, if something else I wanted you to see here, I've cut a little out of the middle of this, and I had to give it the angle that I wanted. And now that I have, if you really look at the wing, it does kind of look like a sexy P51 wing already. It's really nicely proportioned. And this was 8-inch wingspan. And you can see what I have actually taken out is not much, guys. Okay? But it is a noticeable amount. And it does remove weight and give it less resistance in the air, which means this one has less wing area than any of the others. In fact, the only one that might have less area than this is going to be the F-86, and I actually don't want it to. I want it to be a little bigger. In real life, the F-86 is a bigger aircraft than the P-51 and faster. I'm pretty much going to aim for that. You never know, though. This one might surprise me and be a little speed demon that handles really well, too. Just because the profile it's looking to have when we finish this is a really nice lift profile. Not too crazy like the other one, but really slick. It's going to be right in between the two profiles, but it'll be just higher lift than my Speedster and nowhere near as high lift, about a quarter the height, or maybe a third the height of the highest aspect one. So it's looking to be really nice in every way. Aerodynamically, it's going to be it has the potential to be the sleekest one in a lot of ways. Weight-wise, it will be by far the lightest if I'm not really careful, because it has a lighter wing already than even the lightest one does. It's also going to be using a lighter body than the lightest one does. Well, if I do that, it's absolutely going to come out lighter. And that is now a consideration for me. I do not want it to come out too light. So I'm actually going to make it both ways. I'm going to make it with one and see how it weighs. Basically, I'm just going to take all the parts, put them together, put them on the scale. If I don't like the way it weighs, if it weighs under 21 grams, I'm going to do it with this one instead. And that should bump it to 23 or 24, which is my target weight. Now, the trick is, because I'm going to have to use these pieces to attach it, they are about 0.4 of a gram, and I'm going to have to add another 0.3 or so in glue to get all that attached, maybe 0.4, which means that represents roughly another gram of weight added on to my 7-gram wing. So we're back to an 8-gram wing. But that is much lighter than the big, huge wing I had made. So an 8-gram wing is pretty light, guys. That's not bad at all. An 8-gram wing, if I remember correctly, I did weigh the wing on the little guy, and it was 8 grams. That was on the fastest one. On the other one, I have weighed it, and it's actually 9.5. It's a little over 9 grams, because without the glue, it's 9 grams. With the glue, it's actually more like 9.5, 9.4 actually. So yeah, I mean, that's a big weight difference when you realize this one's under 8 grams. And I mean, just look at that for a minute. You really do the math on that. And we're looking at a 7.5 gram wing, even with the extra bits. It's just a shy over 8 is what it'll end up to. Even with all the glue and everything put together, it'll be under 8 grams. And that is a goal. So, it's good to have goals. It's good to plan things out and have expectations. But my original intent for this would have actually seen this wing a little bit bigger. I've shaved off a lot. I keep trimming it to get the exact angles that I want. And now that I've got them right, the whole wing is a little smaller than I had originally intended. But not really, because what I wanted was for it to be as small as possible and still fly well. And this is looking like that's about it. I mean, we're not looking at a big wingspan here. It's sub 8 inches. And given that it's going to have an 8-inch shaft, it's going to be longer than it is wide, which is what a P51 should be. The proportions to a P51 should work out great. And just to show you here, here's the light one. And you can already see it's got a much bigger wing profile. A much bigger wing profile. So you never know. This little P51 might surprise us and end up being the fastest one. And that wouldn't really hurt me, except that I don't want it to be too crazy fast. I just want it to be fun to fly and a nice little cruiser. Not so much. I mean, I wouldn't be making a sport plane if I didn't want it to fly sporty. I was saying this is the ones I want to have do tricks. So unlike the other two, it's really important that this work out just right if I want it to be balanced well and fly well. And so I'm going to be very careful about how I go through it. And that being said, I'm using these light, tiny little reinforcements to glue the wing together, top and bottom, inside and out, that will still weigh a lot less than the rod method. I could also put a little rod in it to strengthen it, but it won't really need it. Once it's locked into the frame, it'll be just fine. And now that I'm seeing the total weight of this, I'm realizing I'm probably going to want to use the bigger body just so I don't get it to the 21 gram range. I really do want to have it be between 23 and 24 and a half grams. So there's that. Partly because I suspect that I want to make the F86 a little faster than this one, ideally, which theoretically you might think means it needs to be lighter. It might not work out that way. It might work out that it launches better with a little more weight. I've said earlier I like a weighty launch. That's why. I found that for speed, you don't want it to be too light and you don't want it to be too heavy. So we're going to continue to experiment. At the very least, this is gorgeous now. The wing is perfect. And that alone means I'm going to have it looking like a proper P51 when it's done. It won't be perfect, but it definitely will be recognizable as a P51 when you look at the tail configuration and the wing, if you know planes. That's all I wanted. That's good enough for me, guys. That being said, I'm going to cut out on this one. But this just gives you an idea of how much design effort goes into it, because this is all changed a few times now, and the angles have to be really particular for a P51 or they're just not right. And the more I thought about it, when I looked at the pictures, like I was saying I was going to earlier, I started looking up pictures and downloading them on my phone and trying to zooming in and checking them out, looking at the angles. And the more I did that, the more I realized it's really vital that I get those angles right if I wanted to really represent a P51. Even to the little connectors that connect the hull. Those are a real pivotal part of the wing and they're important. Keith out.